Hello students, in this video I am going to start a new chapter of the class 11. This is biological classification. Introductory part actually I am going to discuss in detailed parts. The details comes in the next part. This is actually an introductory video and we can directly go to the move on to our videos. Okay. This one is the in the last class we studied the biological classification, right? In the first chapter we already learned it. So what is the biological classification? It's a scientific procedure of arranging organisms into a hierarchical series of groups and subgroups based on their similarities and dissimilarities. That is, it's a scientific procedure or it's a step-by-step procedures of arranging or grouping organisms into a hierarchical series or into different categories based, that is levels of or grouping organisms based on their similarities and dissimilarities. And here in this part we are going to discuss about the classification of the living organisms. And initially the Aristotle, who was known as the father of biology, who is a Greek philosopher, he studied mostly on the classification of organism, or he was the ancient scientist who did most of the studies in the classification of the organisms, and he classified organisms into plants and animals. He was the first person who studied, he was an ancient scientist, a Greek philosopher, and he was also known as the father of biology. He actually classified the organisms into plants and animals. That is mainly based on their morphological characteristics. Okay, that is classifications mainly based on their morphological characters. The organisms are classified into plants and animals by the Aristotle, who was known as the father of biology, who is a Greek philosopher. He divided plants into two groups. That is, he initially divided the plants into or living organisms into two, that is plants and animals, and he classified plants into three groups, or divided plants into three groups, that is herbs, shrubs and trees. That is, he divided plants into herbs, shrubs and trees. You know that herb, that is a short plants with a thin stems are there, and it is also medicinal plants are also included. There is a mint, coriander, that is coming under the herbs. Spinach and all are coming under the herbs. Shrubs means a short bushy plants are there. Its stems are actually thick and is not easily breakable. That is, example is a hibiscus, rose, tulsis. These are coming under the shrubs. And the trees, that is a woody plants are called as a trees. That is having a trunk, woody stem called as trunks are called as a trees. And he also classified animals into two groups, that is based on the presence or absence of the red bloods, that is enema and anema. That is, he divided animals into two groups, that is enema and anema. That is, enema means those who having the red blood, that is a RBC in their blood. Then the enema, that is those are the absence of red blood. So that is what the Aristotle classification. Aristotle, the father of biology, was the ancient Greek philosopher. He was actually the first person to classify organisms, and he classified living organisms into plants and animals, that is based on their morphological characters. And he again classified the plants into three, that is herbs, shrubs and trees, and classified animals into two groups, that is based on the presence and absence of red blood, that is enema and anema. And next classification was done by the Carolus Linnaeus. He was known as the father of modern taxonomy, right? That also we studied in the first chapter. That is, he was the father of the modern taxonomy. He is botanist, taxonomist, zoologist. He did most of the contributions to the classification of the living organisms. Also, he was the first person who gave the binomial nomenclature, right? He was Carolus Linnaeus, who was known as the father of modern taxonomy, introduced the two kingdom classification. He introduced the two kingdom classification system, that is on the base of the nutrition and mobility, mainly based on their nutrition and their mobility. That is, he divided the organisms into kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia. That is, kingdom Plantae include all the plants and kingdom Animalia includes all the animals. And the kingdom Plantae, that is mainly based on their that is a cell wall, having the cell wall. Plantae have the cell wall, and the kingdom Animalia, they doesn't have the cell wall. And this system of classification actually become inadequate. So the Carlos Linnaeus, who was known as the father of modern taxonomics, he is a Swedish botanist, taxonomist and zoologist. He actually did the two kingdom classification. In the classification, which is mainly based on the, he did a classification mainly based on the nutrition and the mobility. He classified the living organisms into kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia. Kingdom Plantae, that includes all the plants, and kingdom Animalia includes the animals. And the kingdom Plantae, that is having the cell walls, and the kingdom Animalia, that does not have the cell walls. But this system also become the inadequate. But on long run, it actually followed for the long years. But after some time, it also classified, means it becomes inadequate. That classification also become inadequate. What are the reasons behind that? Why this system is actually not inappropriate? It's not a proper way of classification. There are few of the criteria that are not followed by this system. That is why it becomes inadequate. We can check through the what are the reasons why it become inadequate. Didn't distinguish between the eukaryotes and the prokaryotes. This actually does not distinguish between eukaryotes and prokaryotes, but mainly bacteria. That is a eukaryote that is having the true nucleus. It's not differentiating between the eukaryotes and prokaryotes, and also it does not differentiate the unicellular and multicellular. All the unicellular and multicellular organisms are grouped together, and also does not distinguish between or fail to differentiate the photosynthetic and non-photosynthetic organisms. That is photosynthetic, that is green algae. So green algae are there, and non-photosynthetic fungi. They are also grouped together. It's not differentiating between these two groups. And it's actually a large number of organisms. All are grouping together. Plants are in one group and animals are in one group. But still, even though they are included the large number of plants and animals in each of this kingdom, still there are large number of organisms are not fail to fall into this category. We cannot classify this either plants or animals are also fall into this category. We cannot, that is large number of organisms didn't fall into this category. They failed to fall in either of this category. That is, these are the reasons why this two system kingdom classification by the Carlos Linnaeus become inadequate. That is, didn't distinguish between or does not differentiate between what is eukaryotes or what is prokaryotes, or they are actually grouped together. And here also they fail to differentiate between the unicellular and multicellular organisms, and they does not distinguish or differentiate the photosynthetic and non-photosynthetic organisms, and large number of organisms didn't fall or they failed to fall in either of this category. And next is the third classification, that is a R.H. Whittaker 5 kingdom classification. That is 5 kingdom classification that is proposed by R.H. Whittaker in 1969. And in his classification, there are 5 kingdoms are there. The kingdoms are kingdom Monera, Protista, fungi or fungi, any way you can pronounce, then Plantae and Animalia. That is, 5 kingdom classification is the third system of classification that is proposed by R.H. Whittaker in 1969. In his classification, there are 5 kingdoms are there. The 5 kingdoms are kingdom Monera, kingdom Protista, kingdom Fungi, kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia. And the classification mainly based on the following criteria, that is cell structures, the structure of the cells, then body organization, unicellular, multicellular, then mode of nutrition, that is heterotrophic or autotrophic, then mode of reproduction, sexual or asexual mode of reproduction, then phylogenetic relation, that is evolutionary histories. Based on these criteria or based on this based on these criteria or following this R.H. Whittaker classified organisms into 5 kingdoms. That is, there are the criteria that are followed for the classification of the 5 kingdom by the R.H. Whittaker is that first one is the cell structure, then body organization, then the mode of nutrition, mode of reproduction, and phylogenetic relationship or evolutionary history. And here is a table that is given in the NCERT textbook. I have copied it and given here. That is a characteristic of the 5 kingdoms. That is a characteristic of 5 kingdoms. There are 5 kingdoms. I have told you that Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, Animalia. And the characters that are described here is a cell type, cell wall, nuclear membrane, body organization, and the mode of nutrition. And here is a Monera. They are a prokaryotic organisms. Monera, they are the prokaryotic organisms, and the Protista, Fungi, Plantae, Animalia, they are the eukaryotic organisms. Okay, eukaryotic means they have the true nucleus are there, and prokaryotic mainly Monera is a bacteria is present. And the cell wall, there is a non-cellular, that is a polysaccharide and amino acids are present on the cell wall of this Monera kingdom. And in the case of kingdom Protista, there is a presence of cell wall in some cases, and in the fungi there is a chitin is present in the cell wall of these organisms. Instead of polysaccharides amino acid, that is absence of cellulose, they have the chitin on their cell wall. And in the case of Plantae, they have cellulose in the cell wall, and Animalia there is a cell wall absent. And the nuclear membrane is actually absent in the case of prokaryotes, and eukaryotic Protista, they have the presence, that is nuclear membrane present. All other eukaryotic kingdom, that is a Protista kingdom, fungi, kingdom Plantae and Animalia, they have the nuclear membrane present. And next, the body organization, that is a cellular body organization in the Monera, and also Protista there is a cellular body organization. And the case of fungi, there is a multicellular or loose tissue formations can be seen in the. And the case of Plantae, kingdom Plantae, there is a tissue level or organ level of body organization can be seen. And in the case of Animalia, tissue, organ or organ system level of organization. And the mode of nutrition in the case of Monera, they are autotrophic. Autotrophic means chemosynthetic and photosynthetic, and heterotrophic, that is saprophytic or parasitic. They may be autotrophic or heterotrophic. There is a two groups are heterotrophic may be there, autotrophic. Autotrophic means chemosynthetic and photosynthetic. Then heterotrophic means they are mainly saprophytic or parasitic. And in the case of Protista, they are autotrophic, that is photosynthetic mode of autotrophism, and they are heterotrophic also. And the fungi, they are heterotrophic, they are saprophytic and parasitic. Then Plantae, they are autotrophic, that is self photosynthetic mode, that is a self protection of the food material, that is a mode of nutrition. Animal, that is a Animalia, they are heterotrophic, they are holozoic or saprophytic, parasitic, anyway, that is Animalia. These are the different characteristics of the five kingdom. There is a Monera kingdoms, Monera, Fungi, Protista, Plantae and Animalia. Next is the six kingdom classification or the three domain classification that is proposed by Carl Woese, Otto Kendler and Mark Wills. That is the three scientists, that is Carl Woese, Otto Kendler, then Mark Willis in 1990 proposed three domain classification system that divides the life forms into three domains. That is a three domain classification system or a system of classification were proposed by Carl Woese, the main person who was behind this, and next together with Otto Kendler and Mark Willis in 1990. And that divides the kingdom Monera. Actually, here in the five kingdom classification, five kingdoms are there, and one kingdom Monera is there, initial kingdom, right? First kingdom, that's a prokaryotic kingdom. That is actually divides into two domains, and the remaining all are eukaryotic kingdom placed in the third domain. Okay, that is kingdom Monera is divided into two domains, and the remaining all the eukaryotic kingdoms that is placed in the third domain, that is the three domains, that is kingdom Monera, that is divided into two domains, that is two domains are there. Then the remaining four kingdoms, that is eukaryotic kingdoms are there, the five kingdoms are right, that is actually included in a single domain. It's a third domain, and the three domains are Archaea, bacteria and eukaryota. That is a Eubacteria, Eubacteria or bacteria and eukaryota. And it's also known as six kingdom classification, and the six kingdoms are Archaebacteria, that is ancient bacteria, Eubacteria, that is true bacteria, then Protista, Fungi, Plantae, Animalia. That is Carl Woese, Otto Kendler and Mark Willis of 1990 proposed the three domain system of classification that divides the life forms into three domains. In this system, they divide the kingdom Monera. That kingdom Monera is divided into two domains, and the remaining eukaryotic kingdoms that is placed in the third domain. And the three domains are Archaea, bacteria or Eubacteria and eukaryota. And it's also known as the six kingdom classification, and the six kingdoms are Archaebacteria or the ancient bacteria, Eubacteria or the true bacteria, then the Protista, Fungi, Plantae, Animalia. And this main difference from the earlier classification system is actually the splitting of Archaea from bacteria. Actually, in the five kingdom classification, Monera includes the Archaea and also the bacteria are there. From that system, how it is differentiated, or it is difference, what is the main difference between the five kingdom and the six kingdom or the three domain classification is that here is a splitting of Archaea from bacteria. That is, they actually in the Monera two are clubbed together, but they actually in the system they divided, splitting of Archaea from the bacteria as completely different organisms. And this classification system divided life based on the cell type. There is a prokaryotic or eukaryotic, ability to make the food, that is heterotrophic or autotrophic. Then the number of cells in their body, that is unicellular or multicellular. The three domain system classification is mainly based on this classification system divide based on, that is cell type, that is prokaryotic or eukaryotic, that is ability to make the food, that is heterotrophic or autotrophic. Then number of cells in their body, that is unicellular and multicellular. And the Archaebacteria is a very primitive form of bacteria with no nuclear membrane. That is, this is a very primitive form of bacteria with no nuclear membrane, and the group includes the halophiles. Halophiles means that is a bacteria that are salt loving. They can live or resist the high salt concentration and can live in that conditions. Then methanogens that produce the methane gas. Then thermoacidophiles that can thrive or can live in the high temperature, that is the thermophils. And thermoacidophiles means acidic and high temperature, hot acidic conditions they can live. The Archaebacteria, they are the very primitive form of bacteria with no nuclear membrane, and examples are the halophiles, methanogens, then thermoacidophiles. That halophiles means they are highly salt loving, then methanogens that produces a methane gas, thermoacidophiles that is thrives in the acidic high temperature water. Then Eubacteria, they are also called as true bacteria. They are more advanced form of bacteria and mostly are pathogenic. Some are non-pathogenic but mostly include the pathogenic bacteria. Okay, that is spirochaete, cyanobacteria, actinomycota, some of the organisms. Example for the Eubacteria. Next is the eukaryota. It is all life forms that with eukaryotic cells. Okay, the eukaryotic cells that is included in the eukaryota. The life forms of the living organisms with eukaryotic cells. That's a membrane bound nucleus. They have the membrane true nucleus. Eukaryota. Eu means true. Karya means nucleus. That is a living organism that is having the true nucleus. They are called as coming under the eukaryota, that is life forms with eukaryotic cells. Plants, animals, protists and fungi are coming under this group. And this is a showing the picture, showing just a diagram showing the three domains, that is a bacteria, Archaebacteria and eukaryota. You can see this, the purple color or the blue color given here is the bacteria, that is a chlorophyll, gram-positives are the, spirochetes are the, proteobacteria, cyanobacteria, plantomyces, bacterioid, cytophaga, then thermatoga, ecufix, etc. is coming under the bacteria. Then Archaebacteria, they are, you can see here in the red, that is methanobacteria, methanococcus, haloarchaea, thermococcus celer, then thermoproteus, pyrodicticum. These are coming under the Archaea. Next is the eukaryota, or a true nuclei having the two nuclear membrane. That is a eukaryotic cells or eukaryota. Example entamoeba, slime molds, animals, fungi, plants, ciliates, flagellates, trichomonads, microsporidia, then diplomonads. These are the phylogenetic of the three domain classification of the organisms. That is included, the three domains are bacteria or eubacteria, eukaryota and archaea. Cell structure. Cell structure, that is a bacteria that is cell wall peptidoglycan is there. Archaebacteria cell wall no peptidoglycan, and eukarya that is a mixed, and eukarya that is a fungi that is a kingdom fungi that is a cell wall that contains the chitin instead of the cellulose, and Plantae that has the cellulose present on the cell wall, and Animalia there is a no cell wall present. And the body type, bacteria that is a Eubacteria that is unicellular, and Archaebacteria they are also unicellular, and Protista there is a unicellular and multicellulars are there. Fungi also unicellular and multicellular. Plantae and Animalia they are the multicellular organisms. And the nutrition, that is Eubacteria or the bacteria mainly autotrophic and heterotrophic. Archaebacteria or Archaea they are also autotrophic and heterotrophic. Eukarya, that is coming in the Protista they are actually autotrophic and heterotrophic. And fungi they are only heterotrophic, and Plantae they are plants, right? They are autotrophic, and Animalia they are animals anyway, they are heterotrophic only. And examples of the Eubacteria or the bacteria are Enterobacteria, spirochaetes, then Streptococcus, Streptococcus are coming under pneumococci. These all are the coming under the bacteria. Then next is the Archaebacteria, that is methanogens, halophiles, they are all coming under this one. Then Protista, that is amoeba, paramecium, euglena, kelps, etc. And fungi, yeast, mushroom, molds are coming under the fungus. Plantae, that is ferns, pine tree or the trees or plants are coming, or the flowering plants are coming under the kingdom Plantae. Then kingdom Animalia, that is a birds, earthworms, animals are there, and insects also coming under this group. And next we can discuss about in detail about the 5 kingdom classification. And in this video I am not going in detail about the each of this kingdom. So actually a base outline of this 5 kingdom classification I am going to discuss in this video. Okay, that's a kingdom Protista here, kingdom Monera. You can see the picture of the kingdom Monera, that is which the most of the bacteria are there, different types of bacteria are there. Then kingdom Protista is there, see protozoans are there, algae are there. Then the kingdom Fungi, that is a mushrooms, yeast, molds are there. Kingdom plant kingdom, there is a plant kingdoms, you can see that broad leaves, it is ferns, mosses, conifer trees. And animal kingdom, you can see insects are there, squids, then earthworms, sponge, holes are also there. Okay, then this also I have stated in the previous slides, that is system of arrangement of the organisms into taxonomic group or categories on the basis of the similarities and dissimilarities classification, right? And this classification actually make us easy for the study. That is why we are classifying. Otherwise, it's very difficult. It's actually clubbed together, right? By identifying, the naming, classification. Then normal classifying these organisms, what happened, it makes us very easy or concise for the study purpose if they are arranged in a very systematic manner. And this 5 kingdom classification, I have already told you that it is proposed by R.H. Whittaker, that is in the 1969. And the 5 kingdom classification mainly based on the characters like mode of nutrition, that is heterotrophic or autotrophic, their thallus organization, then their cell structure, unicellular, multicellular, then phylogenetic relationship, then reproduction, sexual mode. And this classification include the 5 kingdoms, kingdom Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. And the older system of classification were mainly based on only single characteristic. That means older system of classification was mainly based on only one single characteristic, according to which 2 highly varied organisms were grouped together. That is bacteria, blue-green algae, fungi, mosses, ferns, gymnosperms and angiosperms included under plants. All these are clubbed together under plants. All have cell walls in their cells. Based on that single characteristic, they actually included most of the living organisms, highly varied organisms are grouped together. That is bacteria, blue-green algae, fungi. See, all are actually high variant group are included in a single group based on their characteristic they have having the cell wall. And the prokaryotic bacteria, blue-green algae and eukaryotics were grouped together. That's another problem faced by the initial classification of the system, is that they actually included the prokaryotic, eukaryotic, blue-green algae, everything clubbed together in a single group. Then unicellular and multicellular organisms was also grouped together. So single-celled or multicellular organisms were also grouped together. So this is the older system of classification was mainly based on one single characteristic, according to which two highly varied organisms are grouped together. That is example, bacteria, blue-green algae, fungi, mosses, ferns, gymnosperms and angiosperms are included under the plant kingdom. That is all have cell walls in their cells. That is the characteristics they use to classify these organisms. Then prokaryotic bacteria, blue-green algae, eukaryotic were grouped together. Unicellular, multicellular was also grouped together. Example, unicellular and multicellular, that is chlamydomonas and spirochaete were placed under algae. And heterotrophic fungi and autotrophic green plants, they are autotrophic, right? And fungi is actually heterotrophic, the leaves and parasitic forms or symbiotic forms, right, are grouped together even though they show the character difference in cell wall composition. Even though this is green plants having the cell wall is a cellulose, right, and the fungi they have the cell wall present is the chitin is present in the cell wall. They showed these character differences, but still they are actually classified under the single groups. That chitin is present in the cell wall of the fungus, whereas the cellulose is present in the animal cell, plant cell wall. And even though they are different in this characteristic, still they actually combined together in a one group. These characteristics were considered and all the organisms were classified, regrouped. Actually, most of the with a single characteristics, they actually clubbed together many organisms. Those who cannot fit into the group are also fixed together. But after years and the studies goes on, and they came to know that they are actually modified the classification system, and based on that modification or changes made in the system, scientists again redivided this five kingdom, and this kingdom divided and included and excluded the organisms, okay, based on their similar dissimilar characteristic into five kingdoms and known as five kingdom classification. First one is the kingdom Monera. The kingdom Monera includes all the prokaryotic unicellular organisms. That is prokaryotic unicellular single celled prokaryotic organisms are included in the kingdom Monera. And kingdom Protista, they are also unicellular. That is what eukaryotic. Kingdom Protista, kingdom Monera, prokaryotic. That is pro means false, no carrion, proper absence of true nucleus, that is prokaryotic. Then eukaryotic, that is presence of true nucleus, were placed under the kingdom Protista. And kingdom Protista has grouped together chlamydomonas earlier placed in the algae. That is kingdom Protista has grouped together chlamydomonas that is earlier placed in the algae within the plants, and both having cell wall, with the chlorella, with paramecium and amoeba placed in the animal kingdom, which also have the cell wall, lack of the cell wall, that is kingdom Protista has grouped together chlamydomonas earlier placed in the algae within plants, and both having cell wall, with chlorella, this chlorella with the paramecium and amoeba that is placed in the animal kingdom, which lack cell wall. And next is the kingdom Fungi. The kingdom Fungi that includes the molds, mushrooms, yeast, etc. are included in the kingdom Fungi, and organisms are classified based on the presence and absence of the cell wall. Okay, fungal cell wall mainly consists of the chitin. And the kingdom Plantae includes all eukaryotic plants, right, and which have the chlorophylls. The presence of chlorophylls and they are eukaryotic are grouped in the kingdom Plantae. And the kingdom Animalia that includes eukaryotes which are heterotrophs and lack the cell wall. Animalia, that animal kingdom or the kingdom Animalia, they lack the cell wall. They are multicellular eukaryotes. And next, in this slide we can see the different phylogenetic classification and their characteristics, features. Like in the case of kingdom Monera, you can see they are prokaryotes, right? That is bacteria are present. The cell structure is unicelled prokaryotes. Nutrition, that is absorptive as well as the photosynthetic mode. Movement by flagella, tubulin is there, and reproduction is actually asexual mode of reproduction. Coming under these are the examples of the bacteria, cyanobacteria, that is the blue-green algae. Next is the kingdom Protista, that is the cell structure, that is unicellular eukaryotic forms are there. Absorptive as well as the photosynthetic mode is there. Movement by flagella, cilia, streaming. And the reproduction, both sexual and asexual mode of reproduction are there. Phytoplankton, zooplankton are coming under this Protista. Then next is the Kingdom fungi, that's a multicellular eukaryotic form. Multicellular eukaryotic forms are coming under the fungi, and their cell wall that contain the chitin, and the nutrition, that is heterotrophic is there, absorptive is there, saprotic is there, and the movement, they are non-motile. And the reproduction, both asexual and sexual reproduction are there. Example, unicellular is there, yeast, and molds are there, mushrooms are also coming under the fungi. Then next is a plant kingdom or the kingdom Plantae, that is having the cell structure. Cellulose is present on the cell wall of the organism or the plants, and the nutrition is by autotrophic mode only. Movement, they are non-motile. Reproduction, both asexual and sexual mode of reproduction are there. They are coming under, this is a when algae, bryophytes, ferns, gymnosperm, multicelled eukaryotes, and all the flowering plants are coming under this plant kingdom. Next is the animal kingdom or kingdom Animalia, that is cell structure, that is a cell wall is absent, without cell wall, and plastids, and nutrition is a heterotrophic mode of nutrition, and the movement is actually highly movable. The motile organisms are there. Reproduction, both sexual and asexual. Example, sponges, invertebrate, vertebrate, multicelled eukaryotes. So these are about the common characteristic and the examples of the organisms that are coming under this 5 kingdoms. That is a 5 kingdom classifications, that is kingdom Monera, kingdom Protista, then kingdom Fungi, kingdom Plantae, and kingdom Animalia. Then next is another one more group is there. I don't know whether you are thinking of that or not. One, that is a virus group is there. Have you ever thought of that, where these viruses are placed in this group? No, right? So virus is actually not included in any of this group. So next slide is a viruses. Where do the viruses are kept in the classification system, or where do the virus fit in this classification system? That is, virus are actually an exceptional group of organisms. They are actually, we don't know whether we want to group into living organisms or non-living organisms, because they have actually nucleic acid that is surrounded by a protein cloud. Virus is a nucleic acid surrounded by, they have a RNA or DNA structure is there, that is surrounded by a protein called as a capsid, and they are not placed in the biological classification system because they are non-living things. They are actually not placed in the biological system of classification because non-living things. How they become non-living, right? That is, viruses are considered as a living when these virus become active only when they comes in contact the host cells. Otherwise, they are actually non-living, and they are considered as a non-living or referred to as a non-living because of this. Some of the characteristics are there. Few characteristics based on these characteristics, we are telling that this is a non-living organisms. That is, they are inert in nature, that is metabolically inactive, and inability to reproduce or replicate or reproduce produce the progeny outside the cells. They cannot produce the new cells outside the host cell. And lack of the cellular organ, they don't have a proper cell organization. They have the nucleic, except the nucleic acid. Nucleic acid is present. Other than that, all other cell organisms, mitochondria, lysosome, ribosome, these are absent in the viruses. And inability for the growth and cell division. They cannot divide or grow properly. That is, they cannot. It's inability. This growth and cell division is not possible for these organisms. That is, viruses are considered as a living when they are inside a host cell, but outside a host cell, any host, they are referred to as non-living. Why they are non-living outside the host? Because they are inert, that is metabolically inactive. They cannot do the metabolic actions by their own. And inability to reproduce or replicate outside the host cells, lack of cellular organization, and inability for the growth and cell division. And these viruses are non-cellular, obligate intracellular parasite that only become active when they comes in contact with the host cells. That is, these viruses are actually non-cellular, obligate means strict intracellular parasite. That is, intracellular means inside the cell. Parasite means those that viruses are the non-cellular, obligate intracellular parasite. That means they are not cellular forms. Obligate means strict. Intracellular means inside the cells. Parasite means living inside the cells. They are depending on the other cells for their life. That only become active when they comes in contact with the host cells. That is what we say, inside the host cells they become live, and outside the host they become dead. They are non-living. Once inside the host cells, once they get inside a host cells, they use the host cell energy. They are like inert, right? Inert means they are biologically inactive. They cannot do and they cannot perform any of the activities outside the cells. Once they inside the host cells, they use the host cell energy and tool to make more viral progeny. That is what they cannot reproduce by themselves or outside the host cells. That is, once they get inside the host cells or the live tissue, they uses that cell energy and tool to make more viral progeny. These characters portrayed by the virus make them identical to non-living organisms. That is, outside the cell it's a non-living. Viruses are considered a connecting link between living and non-living organism. That is, actually it is coming inside the cell and active, outside cell inactive. That is, there is a connection between living and non-living organisms. And they are not placed in the biological system because they are non-living. Outside the cells they are non-living. So we cannot include it in the biological system of classification because they are non-living things. That is the reason why we didn't classify this virus in any of our biological system or the classification system. It's not included, it's excluded from the classification system or biological classification. The reason is that they are not following or the criteria of what is a living thing. They cannot reproduce outside the cells. They have no the cellular organization is there. They cannot perform the metabolic activity by themselves. They cannot divide by themselves. So these are the problems, or they become non-cellular or they are the non-living, and based on that reason we cannot classify, is not placed in the biological classification system as they considered as a non-living thing outside a host cell or the live tissue. I think you understood my these portions also, or please go through my video. Any suggestion is there, please comment me. Okay, thank you, bye.